Hello YouTube. Today I'm bringing my build update video to showcase the new build that we've been playing and made. So this setup is a chromatic shot setup using the new Pantheon's Elegy belt. And we were actually able to do some very interesting things with the setup, so I thought it was pretty exciting to showcase. So the main things that I did with this build is I wanted to try out the new belt, Pantheon's Elegy. And the specific one that I want to play around was Goddess of Hunting Dirge, which gives this aura to precise swiftness, gains an additional effect, attack and cast speed. That is a lot of attack and cast speed that you're gaining, just baseline. And you know, this is because of aura effect, so if I get to like 100% aura effect, it's not 300% attack and cast speed. If I get to 200%, it's 450, and it's just an insane amount of attack and cast speed. Which I thought was really cool and interesting. Then there's Warlock's Dirge. I mean, this essentially just saves you a bunch of points on the tree, because normally with Warlock, you would need to not only like manually get various base element damages, like you would need to find it somewhere in your tree, or on Fallen Starlights. You'd also need to get element damage chance, and then it wouldn't be like 100% chance either. So Dirty Tricks is like, you know, it requires a lot of points to set up, but it's like very strong if you do set up. This makes that like whole setup process completely like super easy and chill to do. And then the last one, which is a big one, is this. Enemies within 50 meters are cursed with a 25 to hit curse. And while I'm using a 200 weapon, I'm immune to curses. So, doing this build, I obviously went for a Tinsoff. I do not have a sequence yet. I do need to put a sequence on this, which is very expensive. Very expensive. It's 1,200 FE per click. It is completely awful to do. And even T-zeroing this is gonna be awful to do. Like, I've missed a spell skill. I've tried hitting mods in this multiple times. I'm over 10 misses in a row on this weapon. Like, it is not a good time. And I went, like, way over average trying to get the ultimate mods. Like, it has been miserable. But, that's basically what I'm playing around with the Pantheon's Elegy. And because obviously I'm doing the Swiftness Aura, I am doing Lone Walker's Aura stacking. But I'm doing it slightly different. I have some different goals and ideas with this build in mind. So I'm first going to talk about the offensive layers, then the defensive layers, and then the movement speed. Because the movement speed is the important part. Oh, how the movement speed is important. Now, I will mention, before we continue, this number is going to be over 400% soon. I have some big movement speed upgrades that are also incoming. But I don't know exactly how we're going to get this to 500%, if even possible. But 400% is going to be very doable, while still having like 15 trillion being tanky. So let's talk about defense layers. The first and most obvious defense layer is we have 90 max res. We have 90 max res, and the way we obtain 90 max res is actually through Tenacity Dew. So if you play Tenacity Dew, it has two lines to it. Convert 50% of physical damage taken to a random element and 4 max res. So to get the convert to be 100%, you need 570% elixir effect, because it's 15 times 6, 7. 6, 7. And then that gives you 100% convert. I do currently in this build have 578% elixir effect. If I'm moving around, it goes up to 580, but the minimum amount that I need to have is 570. So that gives me 100% conversion from physical damage to elemental. And then this 4% Ellie res, if we then look at that, it is going to be 4 times 6, 7 is 27. It rounds up to 27. I mean, for me, it's like 4.68. So definitely 27. So then I have 27 max res. And for my last 3% max res, I just have a Kismet longevity tree, which is giving me 3% max Ellie res right now. So that's how I'm getting to 90 max res. And then to convert my erosion to, because I still have 0 erosion, to convert my erosion to elemental, I'm using a Vorax chest with a T0 and a T1 convert mode. Now, I bought like 15 of each of these converts, because when you're in this position where you have 2 alternate modes, you literally just need to keep clicking and just praying you get lucky, because you need to hit a T0 into T1. And then you have to divine it well to like get to 100%. Now, I was very lucky. I did not need to divine this once. It just natty hit 100%. Which I was very happy about, because, you know, spending 250 FE per divine was very expensive. But beyond that, this was basically a requirement for my setup. I needed this to get to 100% convert. And I also needed this elemental res, at least T1 elemental res, to get to 100 to 90 res. Because right now we have exactly 90 lightning res, 92 cold, 92 fire. Now the reason we have these exact amounts is because we have a 12 cold res ring, a 12 fire res ring, and then a 10 lightning res ring. So I needed to get like this tiny bit of extra res for the lightning. So that's been very good for me, and I mean this last basic mod, Regen Life, honestly not a bad mod. Just an extra bit of regen. Like, we are currently using a precise rejuvenation buff, which is 8% life regen, so we actually have 12% life regen right now, which wasn't intentional at all, but it works out pretty well as a sustain layer. And then the second defense layer that we have is we have 100% block. So currently we have attack block 100%, spell block 100%. We're doing this through just memories. Spell block, attack block, spell block, attack block, spell block, attack block. Now I'm going to eventually replace these memories because I'm not using steadfast in this build. So this armor percent is completely useless to me. And instead I can do max life with this. Which is gonna just be a bit nicer because right now we only have 4.3k life. I would prefer to be like around 5k. I think if we do, you know, 30% more max life, this should be kind of close to 5k. And I think that's gonna be a lot better. And those are all my defense layers essentially. So we have 80% block ratio with block cap. We have 50% .dr because of because of absorb my sin. We have 90% max res and all of our damage is converted to elemental. And we have damage transfer. So we have so much fucking so much elixir effect that this resilient moss, the 6% here, is still capped out at 60% because it's currently got up to 6%. And then on top of that 60%, we also have our module, which is giving us another 5.9% damage transfer. Those are all the defense layers in this build, and I mean, we are pretty unkillable. I haven't tried tanking the breath yet, because this is dot damage, not hit damage, but I'm curious to see if, like, even the SS20 breath can kill me. And then in terms of damage, let's see. Oh, I should have tried to tank that. Yeah, we can fully tank the breath right now. It does about 2k damage to us, which is really impressive. So those are all the defense layers. Now, I did focus a lot more on offense layers this time around than defense layers, because we had an incident with Whirlwind that we did yesterday, and I'll get to exactly what happened there and how everything led to what I'm doing right now. But for offense layers, for starters, we have Malign Embrace. I have this frail, you know, T0 mod, because if you don't have this, enemies will always crit you, and that fucking sucks ass. And this is just, like, one of the strongest, like, you know, this is just so unbelievably strong to have. It not only gives you a ton of base crit rating, it gives you a ton of additional damage, and gives you a lot of tango quantity, which, in essence, also gives you additional damage, because that is going to be damage for Dormant Entanglement. So this is going to just give you a ton of damage, very, very good helm. It doesn't make any sense not to use. The only thing that's like a downside is this is an ES base, not life base. So we're lacking a bit of life because of that, but it's not a big deal. Then our second offensive layer is going to be Wings of Light. So we have 30% corrode on Wings of Light. And because we're playing with this Warlock Dirge, it makes a lot of sense in our build to go into the Warlock tree itself to pick up dirty tricks. And if you go into the Warlock tree, it not only is like really good, it gives you access to a Phantasmagoria, which is, you know, every legendary main talent gives you 10.5% sealed mana compensation. And this Phantasmagoria also is giving me CC immune. So I have Curse immune, I have CC immune, I have Wilt and Trauma immune on my rings, and now my Year Memory is giving me Indict immune. That's why I have full immunities for Deep Space. And because we're already in Warlock, we're taking like Slow, we're taking Blind, we're taking Paralyze, it pretty much just naturally lines up to go Wings of Light. Because we have Frostbite, we have Freeze, we have Paralyze, we have Slow, and we have Blind. Wait, do we have blind? Yeah, we have blind. So we already just have like fucking full on just every CC effect. This does stack up to 6 times, so we only have 5 stacks. We don't have any way to get the 6th stack. We don't have knockback, we don't have weaken or anything like that. I could get it on a Year Memory. Oh, sorry, I could get it on a Slate. I didn't. That was an intentional decision. I don't think it's worth it. And yeah, this is a very, very strong glove. It's giving us health damage. Then also we're doing Lone Walkers with precise spell amplification. Now because we're doing Lone Walkers, we can also do another 3 auras. So if you want to seal like this, a precise 10% aura and then 3 50% auras, you only need 50% sealed mana for that. So we are doing exactly that. We have 50%, 50%, and 50%. And it works very well with this build because we're doing Chromatic Shot, first to cold convert. Then we can do Weapon Amplification for first damage. We can do Frigid Domain for cold damage. Precise Projectiles for projectile damage. And then Swiftness is giving us like 5 trillion attack and cast speed. I did do the math on it, because we still have some sealed mana left. And if I want to, I can also fit in a Selfishness, which, let me just quickly show that. Precise Selfishness, it gives 20% aura effect and minus 12% sealed mana compensation. So I can just fit in a Selfishness here. And then still be like able to seal mana. And Selfishness always makes a lot of sense to do on Swiftness because it goes attack and cast speed. And I'm also capable of fitting in precise standards once on each one of these auras. In fact, I have literally allocated energy specifically to do that. You know, my eventual goal is to get precise stance on each one of these and just have an extra, 30 or 40% aura effect for each aura. I just haven't gotten around to buying them yet. Because I did have them in my previous build and I sold them off for the Whirlwind build, which ended up not working out. So now I need to buy them back at a loss, unfortunately. But I don't know if I'm actually, I don't know if we're really gonna push the aura effect on Swiftness. We'll have to figure it out and stuff. Because Tangles does have breakpoints, and we actually currently are literally at a breakpoint. We have 10.2 attacks per second, so going from 10.2 to 14 casts per second is not going to give us any additional damage. We're just going to be at the same amount of damage. And the way we get there is we have 450% attack speed from our Scorpion Distillate and from Swiftness. And then I actually bought a new Nether King, which I haven't been able to roll yet, so this one's completely ass. Which gives me Spell Aggression, because Spell Aggression gives you additional cast speed. And this gives me about 10% additional cast speed, which is just the amount I needed to reach the 10 casts per second. So, I mean, I can go in so much detail talking about all the things we're doing for damage. I have an inverse image to give me elixir effect for my, obvious reasons. All the Warlock tech, Prophet is pretty standard, Cosmology is pretty standard. I will mention movement speed, because this is a very important one to me. How am I scaling my movement speed? So, the first one is I actually have this Fallen Starlight, which, let's see if you can see it. You can. Which gives me 5.1% movement speed for each activated Tangle. So on the target dummy, this is giving me 15% movement speed. But actually, in mapping, this is going to be 20%, I believe. Because all 4 of my Tangles should be activated on enemies, if I'm not mistaken. But at the very least, it's always going to give me 15%. That's why I get 15% movement speed. Then I also have 3rd times the charm on my pedigree. Which, this was really cheap to buy. Because I mostly just wanted reflection. I wanted reflection because it's 36% more multiplier, which is pretty decent. I was thinking about buying a module with an aura on it as well to make this 42%, but those were just very expensive, so I didn't do it. 3rd times the charm gives me Hasten, which Hasten gives me another 8% cast speed and movement speed. I mostly just want this for the movement speed. I don't really care much about the additional cast speed. Because instead of the additional cast speed, I can just run this mod. 6% additional cast speed if you've dealt crit recently. This turns into 10%, so that doesn't really matter to me. The main one was I just wanted the movement speed from Aston. In the Gods Watch tree, I'm obviously taking these 18% movement speed nodes. I'm not taking this node. I don't have the spare points. It's actually very, very tight on points in this build right now. Which is giving me another 18% movement speed. I obviously have my Scorpion Distillate, which is going to give me 15 times 6.8 at 100% movement speed from just Scorpion Distillate. I did buy a new module. You probably saw the start of the video, my module sold. I bought a module that's giving me Ellie res, because we need 10 all res. And it's giving me 20% movement speed of Haste Protocol. So I am dropping injury buffer completely from the build. I don't feel that it's needed. At least not for this build, because this build is just that tanky. Injury buffer is very good for like extending your EHP and just getting more tankiness. If I felt like I need more tankiness, that would be one of the angles I would look towards. But right now, like, I don't really need it, and this is just fixing things as well as giving me a lot of movement speed. Obviously, we are doing Swiftness Aura, which is giving us a ton of movement speed. I wish my Swiftness Auras was higher level, but, you know, what can I do? Because getting levels on Auras is actually very efficient if you're Aura stacking, because then the Aura effect is all the more powerful. So maybe we'll try to figure something out for that, but it's going to be very difficult. A big one that we're also doing then for movement speed is actually my Kismet setup. So, for my Kismets, right now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 microfights are all giving us 3% movement speed. This is 18% movement speed. Now, 18% movement speed is not a lot. That's kind of shit. But, I am going to buy a 4 micro Destiny, Undetermined Fate, which is going to give us 30% movement speed. So instead of 6 times 3 to give us 18, it's going to be 10 times 3 to give us 30% movement speed. And then I'm going to buy 3 Star Trails. And I'm going to plop down all 3 Star Trails here. And then that is going to give me 70.5% movement speed. So we are going to be gaining an entire 52.5% additional movements, or like at 52% movement speed in this build, which is going to put us at over 410% movement speed, which I am very excited for. That is going to be like the big movement speed gain that we're going to be doing in the build. Pushing the movement speed beyond that is starting to get very difficult though, because like I need 1 Kismet for I need 1 block ratio. So I'll have like 2 micros here that I can like maybe put movement speed on to get an extra 6%, but you know, it's not that big of a deal. The main thing is just I want to do this slate setup. And the way I'm gonna fit everything in, because I need max res, I need rejuve, and I need Tiger's Roar. So I'm gonna buy a 1 medium, and then just have one of these be placed here. And then we do 3 Star Trials, and that's gonna be my 6 mediums. And then we'll just do the 10 micros of movement speed. And then the last 2 micros that is not block ratio can just be flex. We technically don't need the block ratio one, but that takes us from 79% block ratio to 82. Because we have this Foreign Starlight, which is giving us 8.5% block ratio. And this Starlight is very, very important. This one's actually very powerful. So not only is this giving me all my Ellie pen that I need in the build, because again, we have Frostbite, we have Freeze, and we have Ignite. We have all 3 of those, so this is already 15% pen. My Tyrant is also applying Numb for me. So sometimes it's 20%. It's not 100% uptime on the Tyrant, but it's like 80% uptime. And this is just giving me an absolute ton of Ellie pen. It's like actually such a powerful Fallen Starlight, and this was literally like 80 FE or 60 FE. And it just makes it that both my rings can be Armor Pen instead. And then for my Scepter, I can just go Spell Level and Attributes, which is really nice. But yeah, this is a very important mod, this block ratio, because this is how I'm recovering my life when I'm blocking. So I have life recovery on block, and then I've just natural life regen through rejuvenation buff and through this regen mod on my Voraxlum. So those are like all the defense and offense and movement speed layers of the build. There's probably a bit more complexity to it that I haven't really gone in detail about. Like one thing that I did, which it feels kind of bad, and I'm like trying to figure out a way to fix it, but I don't really know what to do, is I have Fervor in my build. Instead of just doing like, you know, Dexterity and then at the bottom you're going for like Aura Effect or something. I actually went for Fervor because I needed the 200% crit. Because it's very hard to fit crit into this build. And right now, we only have 84% crit. So our crit damage is about 650%. This doesn't show the Warlock crit properly. and Warlock is giving us 42% crit damage, so we're at 643%. But we only have 84% spell crit. Now, if I buy a corroded Dormant Entangle, like if I buy this T0, which is 4.5k, and we buy like a 220 roll, that is actually gonna fix it, kind of, because then we're gonna have this plus, fuck. We're gonna have 220 times 3 plus, what? What is going on? 220 times 3 plus 500 multiplied by 8.8. And then we're gonna have exactly 100% crit. So if I get a high enough corrode on my Malign Embrace, we will actually have 100% crit. And then another way that I'm thinking of getting crit, because I'm gonna need more crit than just that, is I actually want to try and roll this Nether King, which I will be making a video guide on the Nether King soon, now that I understand the system a bit better. I do want to try and roll this Nether King until we hit this 5% spell crit rating, 10% crit rating mod for every skill spell level. It's actually 10 times. Because I'm going to need this mod to cap my crit out once I get my sequence on my weapon. Because the weapon sequence that I am going for is Control Spell. And Control Spell gives you minus 100% crit, but the sequence itself is really insane. It's like fucking 70% more damage, so, you know, if I'm at like, let's say I'm 15 trillion and I get 70% more damage, all of a sudden we are sitting at, did I say 15 trillion? I did. So then all of a sudden we're sitting at like fucking 25 trillion or some shit. You know, it's very, 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 very powerful. But anyway, this has gone on for way too long. I've been ranting so much. I can go on and on about this build for like ages. I will quickly mention the Whirlwind build from yesterday. The big issue that basically happened with the Whirlwind build, and the reason why it like flopped, is this time around I went into the build thinking about my offensive layers first. I thought about how am I going to push damage first. You know, I thought about the Wings of Light. I thought about, do I do a shield versus 2 wands versus a scepter? I focus a lot more on the damage aspect and like the scaling of the build. And then once I had all of that as an outline, I started making adjustments. Like, okay, how can I keep some of my defense layers, not all of them, but some of them, while still keeping as many offense layers as possible? Like, how can I make things fit in this build? And as you can see, this is a very tight fit of a build. Everything works perfectly, but it is a very, very tight fit. It was a very tricky puzzle to put together. When I was making the Whirlwind build, I went into it with the assumption that damage is irrelevant. If I just make the build and I throw enough FE at it, I will reach 15 trillion. I will reach damage cap. I will reach like insane damage. And that's true. That is very true. What I underestimated is just one, how absolutely garbage of a skill Whirlwind is still, even after the buffs. But more importantly, two, just how much FE it actually takes to make up for a lack of damage if you build full defense. Because, like, I had way too many defense layers in that build. That build was unfucking killable. I showed you my tanking the breath from Supreme Showdown 20, and how it like made me drop down to half HP. That build could literally AFK that breath, and its HP bar didn't move. It was the unkillable build. If I had another million FE to throw at it, that build would reach damage cap, and it would be absolutely incredible. The problem is, I didn't have a million FE. I had like 30k, 50k, 80k, I don't fucking know how much FE, but I had less FE than this build had even. Because of this build, I actually kind of got lucky with things selling that hadn't sold with the Whirlwind, which I'm very thankful about, because if I threw all the money into the Whirlwind build, it would have been very bad. And another thing I realized is that when you try to do so many things at once, the amount of movement speed I was getting from dex stacking wasn't even that insane. Like, even if I got 3k dex, my boots were giving like 200% movement speed. Like, I'm sure in the very, very end game, if I threw a million FE at it, like, it would be tankier than... Sorry, it would be faster than this character. But, like, this character is gonna get really close to what my Whirlwind build was potential was. I'm gonna get, like, 400 and something % movement speed, and maybe after 400%, I'll try looking into, like, more ways to get to higher movement speed. To try and push for 500%, but, like, this build's a lot more flexible. I have a lot more, like, flexibility of trying to fit in movement speed, trying to find ways to make movement speed happen. You know, I have Blur, for example, my build. I could go for Blur movement speed. I have Swiftness, so I can do aura stacking. I can get more aura effect for my Swiftness. I don't really need anything for my Kismet, so I can just go micro movement speed micros. I just have a lot more potential for like things to do with movement speed. One thing I will mention, because I keep staring at right now, our attributes is very low. I do need to fix my attributes. Because we literally have dex here, int here, and that's it. We have no attributes on our neck, we have no attributes on our ring, we have no attributes on our Vorax. So this build is very like hungry for attributes. And that is something that I'm not exactly sure how to fix yet. Because getting your attributes like 600 is like kind of it's pretty damn damage efficient, but you know, you can't have literally everything in life go your way. And if there's like a tiny bit of like attributes missing, it's not the end of the world. It's just like it's just a bit of efficient stat that I just can't get more of, unfortunately. Anyway, sorry for rambling so long, YouTube. I am very, very sorry. But if you did stay around until the end, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe. And I hope you guys enjoyed. Actually, fuck. I forgot the build showcase. I always get comments asking to showcase the builds when I do these videos. Okay, we're just doing Vorax Arcana Hunting Sandlord. This is literally just a setup where the only thing that matters is your mapping speed. All that matters is just going from point A of the map to point B of the map as fast as possible. So damage-wise, we're not that good yet. I do need to do a bunch more upgrades on my build to get more damage. But tank-wise, we're like obscenely tanky. And getting the damage is going to be very easy at least, that's like a good thing. It's a good feeling when I know exactly where the damage is going to come from. Like, I'm going to like easily times 10 my damage going into the future. Because I have so many upgrades left to do. Because I actually, to get this video out, I actually wanted to like finish the defense layers of the build first. Before I would like get all the damage setups. Just because I wanted to showcase the build tanking SS20, like breath and shit like that. That's honestly the real reason. I just wanted to showcase me tanking some stuff. Which I didn't even think about anything to tank, but I mean, that SS20 breath does so much fucking damage that I thought that was like a pretty impressive one to showcase. Especially because I believe it's dot damage, not hit damage. And dot damage is a lot harder to tank than hit damage. I'm not quite happy with the amount of movement speed we have, but I do know it's gonna get a lot better once we like have, you know, more aura effect for swiftness, the star trails, all those things. I think my upgrades that I'm gonna work on now is, I mean, I want to finish my Nether King. Nether Kings are so expensive to craft. They're like it's an absolutely awful system actually. I really don't like it. But I will say that I do plan on making a video like explaining the Nether King system to people so that they can like, you know, step their feet into like Nether King crafting and learn about it. And just understand the basics of it, because it's actually, this isn't very easy, but it's so unfun. I really don't like it. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you had a lovely day further, and I'll see you again next time. Bye bye, YouTube. Bye bye.